never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turning around.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Another fantastic day for an interview because I've got Christopher Mack with me. Christopher is a man who has traveled the path of sobriety for a long time. So he has got quite some years on me, and that is an amazing journey. But he is asking such an important and profound question now. Okay, you're sober. Now what? So what? And I think that is the crux to it, because so often sobriety is one thing, which is basically we've stopped using whatever it was that we were using. But now what? How do you develop a life that you can live to the fullest and be proud of it? What are the key ingredients that you need to mix into that dish? And that's what I want to find out today from Christopher. Welcome to my show.
Hi, thank you. So that's a wow. That's that without taking a breath, you did all that. I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I'm amazed. Uh,
You are an
yeah.
amazing man. I mean, how many years is it now that you
Mm.
have not used?
September 22nd, the year 2000. So if you did, I guess the creator made it easy for me to say, okay, well, every zero, you're a year. So it's 2001, I was 1 year. And so it's 2024. So I'm 24 years, 24 years sobriety.
Wow.
So
What was your poison? Or poisons?
everything.
Excellent.
If it altered my reality, it was in my wheelhouse. I didn't use needles though. So that was a no. Just one of those things I just didn't do. And sniff, smokes, drinks, strain, it was all there. It was like looking for Alice in the Wonderland, going through the looking glass, trying to find something,
Yeah.
I remember when I took my first tab of orange sunshine. I'm riding a motorcycle, and all of a sudden I'm seeing all the little squiggly things in the world, in the air, and riding down the streets. Ooh, this is cool. So yeah.
What is orange sunshine? I
It
have
was
not
a
come
tab.
across.
It was a tab of acid.
I
It
see.
was
I
it
see.
was a tab of acid, and
Ah.
so I was riding my 350 motorcycle, and
Yeah, I was about to say, normally you don't try a new drug when you're actually jumping onto a motorcycle, but you just took it as it came.
it was there. It was there, and I was, but I was young, so youth does have its advantages, right? For stupidity, but it
Yeah,
does
that's
have
true.
it has its advantages for stupidity. So
Oh,
yeah.
so many men will agree and start nodding. And guess what? So many women will do too. You don't need to have a Y chromosome to be young and stupid, okay? So,
Yeah.
oh my
It's
goodness.
that point of invincibility.
Hmm,
You just saying, what's gonna get me to this place? And
hmm.
so that was it.
But when you said
So I said,
get me to this blaze, that is, of course, the crux of it all. It is,
mhm,
I became in my 20s, I became an escape artist.
mhm.
I was
I like
very
that. I
good in
like it.
this escaping my reality, very
Right,
much so.
right.
Which reality did you run away from?
All of it.
Hmm.
Uh, it wasn't until I got into recovery that I realized that the reality that I had was thrust upon me with no truth, or just based upon the system. I'm an American, Black American in the country that says one thing. However, some of those things are not really true. And so uh, when I was in recovery, I realized that I grew up on Leave It to Beaver, and Father Knows Best. And, it was so white. And I said, wow. It had no, and the only time you seen black folks on TV was
Right.
when they were being washed away and beat and dog sicked on them. So, I came up in the 60s, and that was when the civil rights movement came. So why would you need a civil rights when you had a country that says the land of the free, the land of the brave? And it had so many conversations about what life should be. And when I got into recovery, I took a look at myself and I said, well, wow. I said, that really didn't fit me. I didn't have a father who would come home and after a hard day's work and a mother who was in the kitchen cooking. So you see, reality was kind of like shown to me one way and had nothing to do with me at all. Because in 1965, I was standing on the corner. I was in Figueroa, and I saw tanks going down the street because the Watts riot was occurring. And see, Watts is a place in Los Angeles that was predominantly black, but it had a lot of things that were inconsistent with life, freedom, and truth, right? And here you live in a country that says, oh, this country says, oh, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's for everybody. And it says, all men are created equal. That's for everybody. But then
Bullshit.
they give you some bullshit to make you not a man. And that becomes interesting. And so those are the realities that I'm trying to escape because my reality doesn't match truth.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And so when it came to wanting to get away from everything, wow, come on. When you took that first hit of marijuana, when you took that first beer, your internals, your inside just felt, oh, there's that song that, as an addict or alcoholic, you follow. Wow, oh, if that feels good, how much more of this will feel good?
Exactly. Oh, goodness. I know that
I
song. Yeah.
yeah. I don't even think it was about even it was this perception of feeling good because there's those crashes, boom, and now you know back to the same old stuff. You can't maintain that because before you even get higher than that, you pass out. And now where are you? You just wake up with a headache, or a
Very true.
hangover.
Very true.
So I started using, and then at 18 years old, I left home, but I was smoking, and then I discovered another drug. They called it angel dust. And that was when I really, I was young, and I think I was in my 20s. That's when life just, and angel dust is nothing to play with. And so I remember getting arrested, and I was in the jailhouse, and I was through with angel dust. It had thoroughly, did me a job. When you start getting arrested for, public intoxication or being under the influence, it's no longer fun. And I said, I wonder what's coming up next. That's what I said when I got out of it. And then I found out in the 70s that crack it was crack. But we didn't call it, we called it freebasing.
Mm.
Cocaine used to be one of those powders that you sniffed, and it was a party favorite. So you didn't see it as, nothing detrimental.
Mm.
But what I learned, by just looking at the results of what crack did to the neighborhood, what crack did to my culture, it desecrated neighborhoods. It hurt people, families. And so, those are some of the realities.
Mm.
And it wasn't until the year 2000 that, sometimes you have the drug, you do it, and then all of a sudden you wouldn't have the drug, and you said, oh man, I spent all my money on the drugs and I don't have no more money. I'm gonna stop. I gotta stop. I gotta quit. I gotta stop. I gotta quit. And somebody comes over, hey, I got something. And right back to the races again. But it was in the year 2000. I was I had two marriages that had failed, and I was on my way to get I was on my way to get another rock. And there I was over in Inglewood, and I was on Myrtle. And I was getting ready to, I had, the police had come up on me and they said, oh, he said, what are you doing out here? And I said, oh, I'm just out for a walk. You know, the OJ thing had just happened and I'm just walking. And all of a sudden they let me go. And so all of a sudden I copped, and that means I bought a rock. And now I'm over here and I'm walking down the street. All of a sudden the same police pull up on me. Now they search me. And now I have a rock in my glove. And they find the rock. Well, for the possession of a controlled substance in Los Angeles was a felony. Now you're going to give me a felony for having something, you know, smaller than a breadcrumb. And here I am, I'm standing there and I'm saying, oh, not to mention I'd already been to prison for 2 years for the same thing. I'm standing there looking, I says, I'm gonna do 5 years in the state penitentiary. And I was standing there and I just couldn't bear it. I just said, well, how am I gonna kill myself before I go to the penitentiary? Because life was over, life was through. I had no purpose. There was nothing here. But I couldn't kill myself. And that's another story. So I'm saying I wished I could die before I go to jail. And right then, there was this real peace that came over me. And I heard this voice say, you won't see one day in the state penitentiary. That's when I went to jail that night. I was in jail for 3 days. And they said, Christopher Mack, you're up for release. And they said that you could find a rehab, because there was a judge that was going to see me who believed in recovery. He believed in rehab. And so I found a rehab, which was called Rena B. And this is in the year, September the 22nd, the year 2000. I didn't have nothing but my books and my shoes and the clothes on my back. And I walked a long way to get into the Rena B. And I sat on the porch and they took me in. And that's where I began my recovery. They said, you have to get you a sponsor. This is through the AA program. Said, you have to get a sponsor. I said, wow, I didn't know. But in the meantime, they say, when we used to have the groups, they say, people would stand up and say, my name is so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic. And I said, no, I ain't gonna say that. I'd get up, I said, my name is Christopher Mack, I'm a human being. And I didn't realize that letting go of that stubbornness at that point would open the door for me. And once I said, my name is Christopher Mack, I am an alcoholic, things started to happen. I got a sponsor, and his name was Rocky Ficklin. And Rocky began to read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with me every week. Every week he'd read the book with me until I got into my 4th step. And when I got into my 4th step, you know, that was when you do a fearless moral inventory. That's when you start to say, you know what, wait a minute, check this out. Things may happen to you. However, it's how you take that thing that happened to you and you hold on to it and you mold it and you use it. And but you begin to let go of those things because they're no longer necessary, you know. In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it just says our ideas, our emotions, and our attitude dominate us. Can you imagine if your idea is not dominating, or your emotion, your attitude is dominating? And I had all 3 of those guys. And I think that they must be the parents of ego.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, but also they said that the ego has to be smashed. You know, but even when you feel, you know, sad about yourself, your ego is still at work. You know, no matter what it is, anything that's about you, it's your ego is at work. And one thing I learned about being an alcoholic or an addict is that selfish, self-centered, and self-seeking. That's it. That's the root. I said, how do you get past that root? You know, because all you know is everything is about me. Oh no, no, it happened to me. You did that to me, and I'm not gonna. All of that noise.
Mm.
And there I was. I was, I was there. I gotta tell people, you know, the only way to stop using is abstinence. That you cannot get or go to the next phase of what is sobriety. I like that question. You can't go to the next phase of what is sobriety until you know abstinence. You have to have a relationship with abstinence. If there is not a relationship with abstinence, as there's even a hint of reservation, abstinence will not live with you. And that's
Mm.
it. I mean, that's what recovery, I mean, that is the beginning
Exactly.
of sobriety, because
Exactly.
sobriety it's another statement. Sobriety is a whole different statement from
Yeah.
abstinence.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they get to be abstinent, but guess, you know what the number one offender, I mean, you know what the number one culprit is boredom. Oh, I'm bored. If you in abstinence and you get bored, you're gonna try to look for the exciting place that you don't really want to go back to.
Oh. Then no, we had
Yeah.
different drivers
Oh
here,
boy.
seemingly. No, for me, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. These were the
Yeah.
four powerful ones. Halt.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
I've
so,
heard. Hey, if you've been in the room, you've heard it. I've heard all. I know what all is.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, sure. But so many people out there. I mean, we too are preaching to the converted here, to amongst the two of us. We are
Mhm.
comparing notes about our experiences. But so many people out there, it might be the first time that they are listening to two men in their prime age, actually being honest with each other, being
No.
authentic, being
What
clear,
I like that.
isn't it? And so
Yeah.
many men, and so many humans, let's call them humans, so many humans are still hiding. They're still driven by shame and guilt. Every one of us has got secrets, and we hate for these secrets to come out. So people build these walls, put up their masks, and it is an ongoing story. Therefore, especially nowadays in 2024, when there is no longer an a nurturing path out there where people say, let's say in mass media, to say, okay, someone has fucked up and he's now trying to get his act together, that is actually a good thing. No, let it be celebrities or Hunter Biden for that case. That his whole trial was all about politics. Where were the voices who say, wow, okay, this was a guy who clearly was suffering from addiction, who clearly fucked up in the past, but look at him now. Look at how he has changed. No, these we are getting sidetracked by different agendas out there, and therefore it is so beautiful that the two of us are just calling a spade, and actually
Right.
saying, yes, okay, we have been men, we fucked up, and we took it on the chin, and here we are now. And I think that is so important to actually show that degree of leadership skills that is missing in the United States, in Germany, in New Zealand. This level of honesty and of ownership is unfortunately missing. And maybe, just maybe, we can be role models here by actually owning up to the shit that we have done.
Well, you have to understand the control mechanisms that this country and everything else that this world has been following has turned out to be a farce,
Mm,
because we don't use truth, we don't use honesty, we don't use introspection, we don't use reflection as tools
mm,
to being in touch with the authentic self.
mm,
There's a dynamics of recovery that occurs, and it's without you, without your permission. If you do the work, if you do the searching, if you
mm.
do the seeking, the authentic self is there. It never left. It's just underdeveloped. It's never developed because guess what? we don't get to the place of God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You understand? That's a trumpet of call to heroism, to courage, to stand up. I don't care what you think about me. It's not none of my business what you think about me. But I think about me, and I'm able to love myself
Ooh.
unconditionally. Huh. Shoot, that's the magic bullet.
Mm. Having said that, I mean, there are different statistics out there, but anywhere between 60 and 90,000 thoughts is what we have each and every day, every man, every woman. About 80% of them are negative. And they are typically either involving our past or involving the worry about our future. Very few people actually think right now. So we are primed with our stupid brains, and or shall I say, stupid ego, to actually listen to these negative thoughts. And that's a hell of a lot of them. Unless you actually have been to rock bottom or have seen other leaders around you model a way of living in which you stay still and show or use introspection to actually see what is really happening, to be present with your emotions rather than running away from them. We have been masters in running. I should have medals for how well I was running away. But to one of the hardest things in my life, I was only starting to do this year. I did a course on radical self-compassion. And one of the exercises was to conjure up an emotion that you truly don't know, don't like, shall I say. And and for me, it was terror and fear. I'm going through a divorce at the moment, finances are tight, a lot of fear and those kind of things. And to conjure up this sensation where where your body is sick with adrenaline and fear, and to sit with that emotion when you normally want to run a mile, I think that was one of the biggest achievements for me. And then thereafter, to let that feeling go and nurture yourself and actually be there for yourself. That was a brutal thing. And especially maybe for us as addicts, because we are so used to do the opposite, to run away as soon as there's something that is not nice. When did you learn that? I mean, you said 2000 was your year of a starting year. Let's call it a starting year, because
Yeah.
our recovery is something that keeps molding and changing and growing, and
It evolves. It's an evolution of
isn't
sort.
it? Isn't
Yeah,
it?
so we're evolving here,
Hmm.
and we're transforming, we're transmuting. You know, there's an alchemical process at work.
Yeah,
So you know, everything that has ever happened to you is of use because it becomes the primer for, you know, doing better. That's what it is. It's a primer for doing better.
I like
And
that.
how does that feel? It feels wonderful. It feels great. You know, I think when I had all of the issues in my fourth step, and then being able to sit with my sponsor and talk to him about all of those things, that I think that that's the starting point, because that is deep introspection and reflection.
Hmm.
You know, and also too, being able to understand and operate in humility for oneself, I think, is the real catch.
Hmm.
You know, so what? I did that. What's so is so what? That's what Warner Earhart said with S. He says, so what? What's so is so what? However, you get a chance to go beyond that because you're not holding yourself hostage. You're not holding yourself hostage with anything. There is no thought that can hold me hostage. You know, you know, you get a sponsor who's been there, done that, and he says, "Well, you know, I got something I'm really ashamed of." So yeah, I molested the chicken. He said, "Well, you did. I did too."
Well, that's the point, isn't it? We
Yeah.
we play ourselves the story on repeat, that whatever we have done, no one could possibly understand or possibly could have gone through. I think that in my recovery, that was one of the biggest things. I was full of anger and resentment about what people had done to me. And there were a lot of things that people had done to me, not nice things.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
only because you're an addict doesn't mean to say that you're not getting shitloads of trauma thrown your way.
Hmm.
So but then to actually stop for a moment and actually also take extreme ownership, or just even in the beginning a little bit of ownership, that's already a lot for an addict in step 4. And for those
Hmm.
of you who don't know,
Hmm.
step
Yeah, I like
4,
that.
exactly.
Yes.
Step 4 here, My Steps to Sobriety. Check my book out. It has been released in its 3rd edition. And bottom line is step 4 is when you make long, long lists. And there are some
Right.
nice lists and there are some not so nice lists. Like, for example,
Right.
your anger and resentment list. And you basically
Right.
write down, okay, Joe did that, and that is how it made me feel. And then you say
Right.
Mary did that, and that's how it made me feel. And so you
Exactly.
keep going with lists, lists, lists. And then after a few days or weeks, whenever someone guides you to it, you add a last column to that list. And you go back
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
Joe, who did that, that made me feel like that. And then you add, what was my role in that whole scenario? Did
Hmm.
I actually play a role? Did I do something that really pissed Joe off? And then
Hmm.
suddenly the magic happens when you then realize, oh my God, um,
Hmm.
goodness. And suddenly all that anger and resentment begins to dissolve. Not
Hmm.
suddenly, not like a magic wand, but suddenly something changes.
Hmm.
And that was one of the biggest experiences early in my sobriety, that I acknowledged my own role
Hmm.
in what happened to me.
Hmm.
Was that insight easily forthcoming for you?
Look, sometimes the real role is holding on to the resentment. That's the role I'm playing in. Sometimes the role is the way I'm looking at it, the way I think about it,
Hmm,
and can I let go of it? But what happened to me in my 5th year?
hmm,
We talk about, you know, sometimes you say using drugs and stuff like that. I think it was Gabor Mate. He was talking about it's a coping mechanism.
hmm.
The fact that we're addicts is a coping mechanism,
Of course it is.
and so when we let go of the coping mechanism, we don't have that.
Hmm,
But one of the things about this, I'm going to tell you, in my 5th year, I was standing that's how I have to do all of that work. I was standing in the donut shop, and all of a sudden a movie came on in my head, and it showed my dad being removed from the home. And I blamed that on my mom for all of those years.
hmm,
And I saw myself as a 4-year-old sitting on the couch, crying, not being able to breathe. Those are traumas that are lodged in cellular memory that are in the body. But when you look at it and you see it, you're able to start, going in a different direction with
hmm,
all kind of things. And so those things that happen to me, they happen. But being able to accept those things that happened to me was for more liberating than it
hmm,
than not. One of the things about people miss is that you'll have a new happiness, you'll have a new freedom, you know, you'll be happy, joyous, and free. Those are the real
hmm.
those are the real byproducts of this sobriety. As you say, so what's after sobriety? Happy, joyous, and free. Sometimes I find myself just happy. Sometimes I find myself free from my own bullshit.
Okay. I and with that, brother, that I go along with. Having
Yeah.
said that, your life continued after 2020, and don't tell me that there were not new traumas, that there was not new shit being thrown at you by the universe, by God, whoever you believe in. the question is, how do we deal with such new traumas, which can be sometimes the perfect guide back to our addictive behavior?
I guess because this too shall pass. It doesn't. It's not just. It's not just that.
Yeah,
It's being able to deal with those things just as they are. It's
yeah,
not. It's I'm not trying to run from it. You remember when you're running from something, where are you running to? And if you're running to something, what are you running from?
mm.
And whatever it is that you're running from, you cannot run from it because it's inside of you. And so sometimes it's just about being still and sitting there and knowing something different.
And that's so true.
Freedom. Hey, look, freedom. That's one of the things that you get in this program is
Mm.
freedom. You're free not to be stupid. You're free not to be foolish. There is
Uh,
this freedom that you
uh,
have.
okay.
And I can't trade that freedom for nothing. Because guess what? The freedom feels oh so good. And
That's
guess
true.
what? I didn't take nothing. I didn't put nothing. And I have this wonderful freedom.
That is a powerful realization. But it's interesting, that came about 5 years into your sobriety, did you say?
5 years when I saw this movie that played in my head. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was five
right.
years. That was 5 years, and I said, "Oh wow, hey man,
Exactly. And I think
it, it,
that is the other thing that so many addicts get wrong. They are stopping using and have no clue yet about the underlying programs that run in their head. They have no clue really or any appreciation of the trauma that they have gone through when they were children, when they were in their younger lives. There's so many things they have run away from, and now suddenly they have thrown the toys out of the cot. There is no more angel dust. There is no more whatever you have been using, alcohol. One of the temptations is that we just switch over to something that is now finally legal or accepted or even supported. So only because you stop using something that is illegal, if you now switch over to something that is actually great, for example, become a workaholic or become an extreme sportsman who does, I don't know, run 500 kilometers each week just because that is his new addiction, or become their cravings for sugar. Did you end up in the power in the grasp of cross addiction? Did you
no,
find yourself doing things like that?
no. I just found that there were more opportunities, and I met somebody in my life in 2010 that it just changed the dynamics of it, and she and I, we wrote a book together based
Mm,
on the dynamics of recovery. And so, uh, look, here, I think the deal is that once you get freedom, you don't want to be in bondage.
mm,
Freedom from the bondage of self. Remember that. It said freedom from the bondage of self. And it's in
mm,
this freedom that there is nothing that holds the price tag higher than that. No
mm,
angel, no drug, no relationship, no activity, nothing
mm.
holds higher value than freedom. And that
Mm.
is a natural occurrence. And
Nice,
that is in the authentic self,
nice.
that ability to be free. Come on.
Mm,
I don't want to trade it in for nothing,
mm,
because guess what? In that freedom, you have options, you have choice, true choice.
mm.
Yeah.
Which is a privilege, and only when you live with intention, when every moment you try to get clear in your head that this moment is a gift, it's a privilege. And if you then start living your life as if there is no tomorrow, because tomorrow actually hasn't come, so there is no tomorrow, literally. So if we actually think right now, what choices do we have? and which choice will lead me closer to becoming a better human, compared with which choice might actually be more hindering me, actually drag me back towards a version of myself that I don't like so much, that I'm not so proud of, that will not leave a legacy. And I think that is one of the biggest things that we can model to others who are earlier on the path, who have just come out of their addiction and are just getting clear, getting sober. I think these intentional living choices, they are powerful. What kind of choices do you model to someone who is new to recovery?
Happiness. That's the only thing I can do is happiness, you know. Be a beacon, be a light, you know. You know, try to find what is the truth in the moment. What is the reality here?
Hmm.
You know, I don't need to. I don't need to cope with life anymore because life already is. You know, and since life already is, how can I make the best of it? Make the best of it by participating. So I am a participant in my own life. So I said, oh wow, who is that? Me. There are no other things. There are no addictions that make me anything else. Because when you're an addiction, you don't have no choice. There is no choice. Choice is always more than one option. But a habit says you do this because that's what you do. You do it. If you're a cigarette smoker, you just got to eat. Every time you eat, you're going to smoke a cigarette because that's a habit. Every time you eat, you're going to smoke a cigarette. You're a cigarette smoker and you drink coffee. Every time you drink that coffee, you're going to smoke a cigarette. You know, so I think once you start having the freedom and you value that freedom, and then nothing, you don't want to give that up. I don't want to give up my freedom, you know. And going back to 2010, I met a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful partner. We've been together for 14 years, and we wrote a book together. It's called The Journey Within, and it's based. Can I show you the book?
Of course, you please.
Okay, this is it. It's called The Journey Within. It's on Amazon, and it says, I'll just read to you some of the back stuff.
Yeah.
Do you desire a different or better life for yourself? Do you feel like something is missing from your fairly good life? Have you started to change only to fall back into your old patterns again and again? Do you want a better understanding of human nature, the mind, and how addictions can take over in the subtlest ways? Do you want to try some new techniques to break through those stubborn patterns and habits? Do you love to hear stories and then learn more about yourself through them? Do you like to watch films and really relate to what the characters are going through? Then this book is for you. Know that when the light hits you, there is a shift in the soul. In that connection, we have to participate fully. And so I participate in my life fully, that I'm not trying to cope in life. I'm living life one day at a time, just as it is, and loving myself in the process because I'm worth loving. And I have, it's funny when you start to think about what relationships is, and you've never had a relationship with yourself. And now there is this new relationship that's developing. And so now you say, wow, okay, so I'm committed to my relationship with myself. I communicate healthy ideas. I am able to look at negative ideas and not take them in and hold them because I don't want to hold negativity inside of me. So I communicate, I cooperate with myself. I consider myself, and I compromise with myself when there is a need for compromise. Okay? Instead of staying up all night, go to bed. That's a good compromise because you'll get rest. You won't be craggy, you won't be crabby and crotchety, and everybody that comes around you, you'll be able to say, "Oh, okay, how you doing?"
You earlier mentioned a very, very important word, the word of purpose. You could say mission in your life. When in your recovery did you finally ditch the shame and guilt, the evil twins, I call them, that are often sort of lurking in the background? And when did you become strong enough to actually say, it is my purpose to write this book? It is my purpose to go out there and teach others that if I can get my shit together, so can they.
I don't know if I would use purpose because, most people are walking around and says, "Oh, what's my purpose in life?" That can become an addiction too, because you start trying to find some
Okay.
some way to exist, but you already are.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so remember what I told you. I can only take what I have discovered inside, and if I'm happy, and if I'm joyous,
Hmm.
and I'm free, when I walk into the room, that's what I take in there. But because I saw the dynamics of recovery,
Hmm.
and my wife, she was able to capture all of that, you know, by looking at and questioning and refining. Because we used to do groups downtown. Because remember, the whole thing about Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 having had having had this experience, you try to give it to the person who still suffers.
Hmm.
That's automatic. That's one of the things
Hmm.
that helps you to massage or eliminate selfishness because you're giving something away,
Hmm.
and whatever it is. And so when I start to be of service,
Hmm.
that became purpose. I'm of service purposefully, not that I need a purpose.
Ooh, nicely,
I,
nicely played.
yeah. Hey, we
But
love to
that's
do it that way.
but that's when you look at the 12 steps, that's the 12th step to
Right,
start giving back. And it's basically
right.
going full circle. And by us giving back towards others, we also nurture ourselves. And I think this is
Well,
so beautiful. This is actually where we put our ego aside and actually just go out there and be there for others. And that is such a powerful thing to do. So I 100% agree with that.
and I'm going to tell you, I'd rather live in humility than in humiliation. Ego brings
Mm,
about humiliation that is always putting you at odds and you're always disturbed. Remember, when you're alcoholic and addict, you're restless, irritable, and discontent.
mm,
When you find happiness,
mm.
there is a certain amount of contentment that drives the car.
Mm.
You no longer have the stupidity of yesterday driving the car.
I like that. You're in the driver's seat. That's so true. That's so true. You're no
Yes,
longer in the victim role,
I
because
like to.
now you're actually switching over at least into the survivor, which, and then by changing not just your attitude, but actually taking action, you change from the survivor into the thriver. And I think that is the key thing. That is a good development within your recovery. So if you're
Mhm.
asking, well, okay, so I'm sober now, what? Well, now the magic journey begins. And you getting sober just means you have actually removed some of the poisons that were numbing your brain. I mean, if I look back at my own life, there are not many self-help courses that were out there that I didn't do. But I did
Mhm.
typically did them with a glass of wine in my hand. And I thought, Tony Robbins, yeah, that's really good shit there. Oh, Stephen Covey. Yeah, first, yeah, that's good stuff. I need to do that one day.
Yeah. Another
Take
sip,
another
another
sip.
wine. Yeah,
Yeah,
take
that's
another
right.
sip.
And you never ever follow through. And nowadays, my life is just different because I actually see an idea and I implement it in my life and
Mhm.
just test it out. Does it work for me? And sometimes I get surprises and think, well, that sounded like a good idea, but it so doesn't work for me. And that's okay. At other times, I'm open to do other things that maybe in the past I wouldn't have been. And suddenly, spiritually, I am growing. And I think, what the hell? And
Right.
this is the beauty of this journey. We make decisions, and these decisions is because we are in the driver's seat. We are no
Right.
longer being taken for a ride by the substances that we are using. And these can be wild rides. I give you that. There is certainly whatever we have chosen in the past, it served us then. It was protecting us then when we were so full of pain and so full of emptiness. And it did the trick then. But that was
Mhm.
then. Okay,
Right.
that was yesterday. Now it's time to actually say, well, okay, how would life be without? And maybe rather than reinventing the wheel, who are people who I can maybe surround myself with, who have been there, done that, vomited on the t-shirt, and are now living such a different life. And I think that is where my show comes in, my book comes in, where you come in, going out there, giving your precious time to talk to me here on my show, giving your precious time to writing your book and putting it out there. So these are all the steps that were serving us so much better, so much were catapulting us forward in our journey. And I think that is what I want to bring out to all of you guys listening. Look at Christopher, look at me. We are two numbnuts, but we got our shit together, at least to a degree. Are we perfect? Hell no. Are you perfect, Christopher?
Yes. Evolution.
And so humble.
Look, 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 look. I can't. The reason I am perfect is because how can I measure anybody with my life? How can I measure anything by my life? And so that perfection is always a measurement against something that's not you. And that's the error of
Mm,
perfection,
okay.
you know. So who can you measure me by? And if you do measurements, you'll start measuring
Mm,
ability, skills, and everything else. Christopher don't do that. But
mm,
Christopher has his own freedom. Christopher is perfect in that freedom. So yes, I am perfect in that. You know that there is nobody Christopher. There is me.
I didn't see
That's
that answer coming, but I like it. I
yeah.
like it a lot.
But because I'm not gonna deny myself. I'm not gonna deny myself the beauty of the creator. I was
Mm,
created not by myself, but
mm,
you know, I am the workmanship of
mm,
something that is awesome, of an intelligence that is so far beyond what I could
mm,
ever imagine. I have to take in that perfection. I have to. You're perfect to me. I've never met you. Never
mm,
met anything like you.
mm.
And what I was gonna tell you is when you say sobriety, sobriety, now what? I'll tell you what. Freedom,
Mm,
happiness, joy. Now what?
mhm.
Opportunity, option, choice. Now what?
Exactly. I love that. I love that. How do you teach someone to love themselves? Because often enough, when we are early in our journey, we see all the negativity. We see all the things that we have done wrong. We still maybe bear the scars physically of what we have done wrong. We still might find ourselves in jail or in other forms of confinements, marriages that do no longer serve us. How do you teach someone to love themselves when everything else they see is negative?
First of all, you got to get rid of so much garbage. So much garbage. How many incidents in our life keep sending out messages and they don't work? You
Mm,
know, so you have to do the introspection.
mm,
You have to use the look in my in the book. It says the question is the flashlight to the dark halls of the mind. You have to ask the question. And maybe one of the do I want to be sober? And if I want to be sober, what is sobriety? You see how that just folded on itself? What is sobriety? And maybe by looking and finding what sobriety is, may give me an opportunity to investigate further. Do I like my life like it is? That could be a question, but that would go into the dark halls of the mind. But you have to be able to face those uglinesses about yourself without condemnation. That's what introspection and reflection is about. You have to be able to do that. They have other tools and techniques, EMDR, EFT, you know, to get those things out of my body cellularly, so I can sit there and cry, so I can, you know. So look, most people, their ass is on fire and they're trying to save their face. You know, that's not the most rational idea.
I hear you, my friend.
Yeah, but you know, that might be a question. Is my ass on fire? You know, am I trying to hold on to a relationship that no longer serves me or wants me? And it's okay to let go of it. It's okay to say, hey, look, maybe loving you is letting you go rather than trying to hold on to what this society has egotistically placed in our lives. Oh, you know. And guess what? It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. Because it's in that failure some of life's great lessons have been taught to the individual. It's not because he was on top. It was because he failed and he got back up. But I gotta share this with you because I'm pressed to do it. I used to think my sister, she was this villain in my life. Didn't like my older sister. She just died in September. And I said, God, this lady, she was a villain to me. And then when she died, I got this sense that she was having this conversation with me. And it was before we were born. And she says, I'm going to go down and I don't want you to think this way of me. I said, because you need me to do this for you. You need me to be this person in your life so that you can have some kind of growth or whatever. And I listened to that conversation in my heart. And all of a sudden, I was no longer a victim of her villainous ways. So she was no longer a villain and I was no longer a victim. It crossed out each other. It made a path of freedom that I could look at my sister with love, respect, and admiration. I said, wow, because she was no longer a villain in my life. And I was no longer a victim to that villain that I had created in my own mind.
I love what you just said, that you had created in your own mind, because that is typically what we do. We always alter our reality to suit our needs. We change our perspective to make us look a little bit better and blame maybe things on others a bit more. It is such a powerful thing when you actually begin to realize that you are part of the problem, that your perspective is actually a mental construct that you have put together. And that may be close to the truth, or it may not be. And many times in my life, if I now reflect back, I have to say, okay, so maybe I was rather off mark here. You know, so, but then again, on the flip side, I mean, I need to ask you, because you're now, like me, we are sort of quite a few years down the road. Do you still automatically consider yourself as guilty? And because there is this tendency of us, when we actually look at those things that we have done wrong, when we begin moving from anger and resentment, the pendulum swings down to something healthy, but we often overcompensate. And now we are guilty for absolutely everything in the world. we are guilty for world hunger. The pendulum swings this far. And then at some stage it comes back. Do you still find yourself automatically taking on the, okay, honey, it's my fault kind of role?
No, because remember, you're using honesty as a measuring gauge. We
Mm,
use principle rather than personality.
mm,
And so if I use honesty as a gauge, I have to own my shit when it's my shit to own. But I don't own my shit when it's not my shit. It's
mm,
somebody, I mean, and I'm not going to sit around, and accuse you of your shit. I can say I'm angry and take a look at the anger and let it go.
mm,
But the fact that I'm angry doesn't mean I'm violent. It's a healthy angry. It's a boundary angry. It says, okay, well, the only thing I could probably do when I first got into my relationship, if I did something, I wouldn't say I'm going to try. What I says, oh, that bothered you? Oh, I'm not going to do it again. That was it. I didn't have to have a pissing contest with you because I had did something to you that upset you. The only thing I could do is say, well, I'll try to do better. No, I'm going to do better because I have a value for that relationship that's priceless.
mm.
And I don't want it to be disconfigured. And so guess what? If you remember ideas, emotions, and attitude. If I have an attitude that I'm this and I'm that, and no, just take a look at the subject. Take a look at what's going on. Oh yeah, that was me. Okay. But I'm not gonna let it, I'm not gonna let it beat me up. And vice versa. If you do something to me, honey, I didn't like that.
Mm,
That was just I just didn't like it. It made me feel some kind of way.
love
you
it.
know. And we can have those discussions,
Mm,
but nobody has to go to bed angry, hungry,
mm.
lonely, and tired. Because why are you in a relationship if you don't have companionship?
Oh,
You know
nice. Nice.
why? Hmm.
Mm. Christopher, you're an amazing man. There were some deep insights there, and for that, I'm incredibly grateful. If people want to know more about you, where can they find out more about you? Where can they get your book?
Well, can I give it? Can I let my commercial advisor come on?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. I was gonna let Wanda knows how to talk about all the dynamics of recovery, but you have to look under
Uh-huh.
Wanda Webster and Christopher Mack. That's it.
Cool.
And this book here is the journey within, and in it has it's a workbook. You can actually ask the questions in it. It
Nice.
also starts off and it has a what do you call it? A motif for, I know you can't see this, but chapter 1 it says it's more than a flesh wound. Chapter 2, obstacles on your journey. Chapter 3, are you a bad actor in a B movie on a bad day? And when you're an alcoholic and an addict, that's it every day. And get an A-list director. And it says become the hero of your journey. And it
Yeah.
says shoot out at the OK Corral. You know how when you start going against somebody and you say one thing, they say something, you say another thing, they say something, and everybody's trying to be clever. That's a shootout. And what is your cover story? And sometimes to make ourselves look good, we'll make a cover story. It's my commentary. And then who showed up on the set today? And sometimes we want that authentic self to show up. The one that has grace, the one that has humility, the one that can say in an instant and not feel nothing about it. Oh, that was my fault.
Mm,
Excuse me, I'm sorry I did
mm.
that. And you don't take no guilt, no shame, no nothing. It does not allow guilt and shame to rest when truth and honesty are abreast. And when you have honesty and truth, you cannot be guilty or shameful or anything because it's all out there.
Beautiful.
That's just, and then the other book is it's a novel. It's Isabel Starry Night. Is how she goes inside on of her own journey, and
Hmm.
so this is it. And this is
Beautiful.
all at Amazon, and also she has the journey within the dynamic deck, so you can ask yourself questions like, with your internal journey work, don't seek to change anything. Instead, seek to allow and accept all parts of yourself. What happens to my mind when acceptance occurs?
Ooh,
That
very
that's
nice.
this is in that deck. So yeah,
Beautiful.
so people can go to the website, the Dynamics of Recovery, Wanda Webster and Christopher Mack. It's the dynamicsofrecovery.com. Yes. Wanda Webster and Christopher Mack.
Perfect.
So anyway, she's my
Wonderful.
partner in everything, but not crime. So that's
Right.
because we're not engaged in any criminal behavior.
Oh, no. That was the past, man. That was the past.
Yeah.
Look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast. Whilst you're down there, please press the like and the subscribe button so that the algorithms are bringing all these beautiful messages to more people out there. And tell your friends about my show, tell about my book, tell your friends about Christopher Mack and his books with Wanda Webster, and just check it out. There is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience there. That's quarter of a century of sobriety. And if we put it together, my sobriety, your sobriety, that's nitty, coming close to sort of, what is that, 35 years, 36 years? That's a lot of sobriety. So we have been there, done that, and it is good. We have failed. We have grown from our failures. We have grown from our trauma. And maybe there's just some beautiful techniques and beautiful insights there that allow you to grow faster than you otherwise would have. And I think that is so beautiful. Christopher, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. That was a beautiful, deep interview. And I certainly learned a lot from you. I love the way you sometimes reframed and rephrased my questions. That was good fun. That was a good day.
Look. If you're going to spend some time with somebody on a Saturday, I recommend that you spend it with Stefan Neff, and discovery is something that we can all participate in,
Hmm.
but the discovery within is truly a journey worth taking.
What a beautiful way to end this interview. Thank you so much, Christopher. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with intention.
All right,
Bye.
and you too. Bye, Steph. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.